Back again with another stimulus check update for you, and make sure you watch this video all the way through to the end of the video. That way you won't miss out on a special bonus that I have in store for you at the end of the video. Make sure you give the video a thumbs up so that way YouTube can promote the video and our channel. Make sure you subscribe using the big red subscribe button below also, and leave me a comment. Let me know if you have any questions or remarks, concerns, comments. And today we're going to be talking about stimulus, good news for the stimulus, and Trump's executive order is no help, really. The stimulus check answers to a few questions, and a stimulus check update as usual for today, August 9th of 2020. So first up on the menu, we're going to be talking about Trump's executive orders. And then we're going to talk a little bit about rental assistance program where you can get up to $1,500 to pay rent. Also, we're going to talk about a question that a lot of people have had is, could you get a second stimulus check from Trump signing an executive order? And also, we're going to talk about the good news that we have for you for today. And basically, the executive order that Trump had signed in last night or yesterday contains the payroll tax deferment, student loan payments deferments, and a $400 extension of unemployment benefits, and the so-called eviction moratorium. And I'll tell you in a little while why I call it a so-called eviction moratorium. So basically, the payroll tax deferral, it only covers Social Security. So I just want to make a correction there from last night's video that I made, where we talked about 7.65%, which that's wrong. Okay, a lot of YouTubers have been saying that too. Also, some news media outlets has been saying that, but that's totally incorrect, because what the memorandum actually says that Trump signed yesterday is it was referring to 26 U.S. Code 3101A, and Section A, it pertains to 6.2%, referring to Social Security only. The 1.45% is mentioned in Section B, and that refers to Medicare. So in the memorandum or executive order, if you wanted to call it, it's only referring to Social Security. Okay, so it's cutting your Social Security payment, basically. Okay, so for that example, you can get an extra $62 in your paycheck if you make a paycheck of $1,000, okay, per week. Now, Trump is, in my opinion, he's extorting people for votes, okay, and forcing people to vote for him back into office or re-elect him in November. For example, what I mean by that is, say, if he's not elected, we would have to pay back these payroll tax deferments in full next year. Okay, and that would be a big bill. Okay, so if he's reelected, he has stated that he would terminate the payroll tax, eliminate it, so that way we will not have to pay it back. It will be forgiven. Okay, now the White House today has walked back that statement, stating that Trump does not intend to eliminate the payroll tax and that Social Security will not be cut. The reason why they walked that back is in response to blowback that they got from liberals, including Joe Biden, who accused Trump of trying to cut the Social Security benefits to also as well. So that we know we don't want our Social Security cut. Okay. So if Trump does not win, the student loan holders will have to start making payments unless the next president extends the pause on student loan payments. Now, for the $400 in unemployment extension, it will not help all of the people who got the $600 before, or would have got the $600, and it may only last a month or 5 weeks, and that is because they have only allotted a certain amount of money to cover this program, and the money, when you divide it up into the number of Americans who rely on unemployment, which is around 30 million people, it comes out to the money running out in about 5 weeks. Now, the memorandum or / executive order says that the states would have to search for the money somewhere else, which, the media has been talking about how the states have totally run out of money. They've been laying off people, and they're getting ready to lay off more people. I mean, that's why Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer is asking for money for the states, right? So that's one downfall of the unemployment. Now, we know that not all the states will participate in this program, and the program relies on the states to contribute $100 of the $400, and the $300 come from the federal government. Okay, so not everyone will qualify for it that qualified for the $600, and a lot of the people, for example, a lot of those people are living in California right now. Now, did Trump make this memorandum on purpose to exclude the majority of Democrats who live in Democrat states? I don't know. I'm not accusing Trump of that, but who knows, right? Now, another thing about the unemployment is it could get tied up in courts for a long time, because Trump is known to put out these executive orders. Like, for example, he put out the executive order on the Muslim ban, travel ban, if you want to call it. And that caused a lot of lawsuits too also as well. And some of his executive orders were actually stopped in the courts. So that would be very unfortunate if this would happen to the people who are anticipating on getting this $400 a week. Now, Steve Mnuchin says he can start the program up like right away, like the states can get this started up immediately, which is not 100% true. Okay, Steve Mnuchin also said we may have a deal on Friday, August 7th for the next stimulus package, and look what happened to that, right? Okay, now Trump, because he signed these executive orders, on one hand, he gave Republicans more leverage to not approve stimulus checks. But there's another side to that coin. Because of all the holes and all the, the propaganda in the executive orders that are actually a false, give people a lot of false hopes and dreams of, being able to stay in their apartments and getting unemployment insurance and having a payroll tax cut and all of these things. It's just not going to be good at all. And the Republicans know this. Mark Meadows said it's not 100%. It's not as good as having a deal passed through Congress. It's more solid. Okay. The $600 a week was more solid because it was passed through Congress, and most of the people were able to get it too also. Now, as far as the so-called eviction moratorium that Trump has been talking about, that he claims this is what one of the executive orders represent, it is not an eviction moratorium at all whatsoever, okay? When compared to the CARES Act, which the CARES Act had an actual real moratorium in it, which stopped or prevented landlords from evicting tenants out of their homes during the pandemic, which expired already. Now, the eviction executive order, it does not protect against evictions at all. It does not prevent the landlord from evicting a tenant. Now, because there's this section inside of the executive order, which is available online. You can read it also. It's on the whitehouse.gov website. It says that, if the CDC and the Secretary of Health and Human Services think that halting evictions would prevent the spread of the C word sickness, the feds will look for money for people, okay, but not give them assistance, okay? So the only way they would halt or stop an eviction is if they feel that, stopping an eviction would stop the spread of the C word sickness, right? But who knows? Who knows what they could say? They could say, okay, it won't stop the spread, so we're not going to stop this eviction. So it's all left up to them pretty much to make that decision. This is not a directive from Trump or the federal government telling them they have to stop evictions. So therefore, this is not an eviction moratorium. And the feds, instead of providing financial assistance or rental assistance, from which Steve Mnuchin, the White House, and Trump is claiming that this executive order does, it does not do any of that. It does not provide any assistance or money to people at all to help with rent whatsoever. Okay, so don't believe the hype. All it is that the feds is going to look for resources for people to find money. I don't know if they're just going to go on Google and look for Google resources and print out Google, printouts from the internet and say, here, this is what's going on in your state. See if you can apply and get that. Or see if you can apply and get that rental assistance, right? But we actually, we don't know. We really don't know. So this is not a real rental assistance program or eviction moratorium whatsoever, because the federal government and the Housing Authority, Secretary of Health and Human Services, all of them, they can only make suggestions, and they review resources to help prevent people from getting evicted and people from getting their houses foreclosed. But they don't do anything specific at all for the people, to help the people. And Trump did not extend the eviction moratorium, even though he can. A lot of sources say that he can extend the CARES Act eviction moratorium. But, a lot of experts believe that he did not do so because he cannot actually help the people with a rental assistance or foreclosure assistance after he has extended the eviction moratorium. So that's why the title of the video that I made today is Trump's executive order is no help, because it really is no help. Okay, so moving right along, we have Greensboro, North Carolina. This is some great news here, but I have more good news for you. So just make sure you stick with me through to the end of the video so you can get all of the good news. Qualified Greensboro residents can now apply for one-time emergency rent and utilities and mortgage assistance in light of the effects of the pandemic on the economy. Because, see, the city of Greensboro received about $2 million from the CARES Act. And basically, they can receive up to $1,500 in rent assistance that's payable to your landlord, and up to $400 for utilities. But you must be current on your lease through February 29th and behind on rent for April, May, and June. Okay, so if you don't meet those requirements, then you don't qualify. There's also mortgage assistance in Greensboro, where you can also receive up to $1,500 in mortgage assistance payable to your mortgage company. But you must be current on your mortgage through February 29th, behind on payments as of June 30th, Also, the home for which you are applying for assistance, it must be your primary residence also as well. And if you'd like more information about applying and what documentation you need for these types of assistance, you can call 336-553-0946, extension 2 for the mortgage assistance. And for the rental assistance, you can call 336-691-9521. Okay, so now we're moving right along here, and we're going to be talking about, could you get another stimulus check from a Trump executive order, right? In other words, can Trump just sign an executive order right now and give everybody stimulus checks? Well, the answer in short is no, but the payroll tax holiday is the closest thing that he can do. All righty. So now for our good news for today, which was reported in USA Today. Democratic congressional leaders and White House officials said today they're willing to continue negotiations to reach an agreement on a new stimulus package to take the place of the executive orders that President Trump unveiled. And probably obviously because it's the executive orders are pretty much all garbage, right? And we have to reach an agreement, Nancy Pelosi said on Fox News today. Now, the Democrat said that Trump's executive orders failed to accomplish the administration's own stated goals. So basically what Trump had stated on TV in his announcement yesterday did not match up to what the executive order and the memorandums that he signed yesterday says on paper. So basically, he lied to the people. Okay. And Nancy Pelosi says, it cannot take the place of an agreement. It's just not so. Right. We've got to meet halfway, talking about the negotiations, and we've got to do the best we can for the American people. But what they put forth does not meet that standard. Talking about the Republican proposal. Now, Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer said on ABC News this week that Trump's executive orders are unworkable, weak, and far too narrow. He hopes Republicans who hung their hat on these executive orders will now be forced by the economy and the pandemic to come to the table and accept our compromise to meet in the middle and come up with an agreement. Now, this executive order, as you would call it, for the payroll tax deferral, which he calls a payroll tax cut, and it is not a payroll tax cut at all, believe you me. It's just a deferral of payroll tax payments, right? It is pretty much cutting Social Security and the funding that is needed for the Social Security program. So that is not good for Trump politically, because the Democrats would just tear him apart on that, especially in the debates and coming up to the election. So Treasury Secretary Steve Mnuchin said on Fox News today that he's willing to continue negotiations with Pelosi and Schumer. Anytime they have a new proposal, I'm willing to listen, he said. The president has said, now this is a statement from Larry Kudlow on ABC News, we can go back to the negotiating table. We've not said no to that. We've been up there every day anyways. This is what Larry Kudlow, he's an economic advisor to the White House. This is what he told ABC News. Now, Sherrod Brown on Twitter had tweeted, what Trump's selling you is a fake tax cut that has to be paid back. What Trump's actually doing is draining your Social Security. This is more failed leadership from a failing president. Oh, wow. Now, both sides indicated that they were still far apart on several key issues in a potential new stimulus bill. However, including how much money that should be allocated for state and local governments and food assistance. How do you justify tens of billions of dollars to feed the hungry to $250,000? Pelosi said. Exactly. You can't feed all of America off of $250,000. Now, you understand how far apart we are just by that example, Pelosi said. When asked would the Democrats be willing to give up, Pelosi said one area is negotiable is the length of time that unemployment and other benefits would be available. Schumer and Pelosi both reduced their price tag of $3.4 trillion on the HEROES Act. They reduced it by $1 trillion down to $2.4 trillion as a proposal or offer to the White House and the Republicans, and that was turned down also by the White House and Senate Republicans. So they were unwilling to compromise. White House trade advisor Peter Navarro said on NBC News Meet the Press that it was unfortunate that these negotiations to date have failed and that it should be easier than it is to reach a deal. We got both sides, one's at 1 trillion, another's at 3 trillion. The first thing you got to do is agree on a number in between, he said. And then what you do is you do a trade-off. Go back and forth across the table what you want, respecting each other's red lines. You don't make the Republicans pay for Planned Parenthood or pot farms, for example. This should be easy. When host Chuck Todd pointed out the Democrats have been willing to meet halfway on a $2 trillion package, Navarro questioned whether the Democrats really are sincere when they come to the table. He said he suspects Democrats would prefer to see the economy go into the tank for another 90 days because that harms the president. It doesn't help when Speaker Pelosi goes out after every day with her scarves flying and just beats the heck out of us for being cool people. The Democrats had violated the cardinal rule in negotiations, which is you don't do them on TV. Navarro said that if a deal is reached, Trump's orders would be unnecessary. Talking about his executive orders would be unnecessary. If Congress solves the problem, there's no need for the president to take executive action. Now, though Pelosi quoted Senator Ben Sasse, Republican from Nebraska, he called Trump's executive orders unconstitutional slop. She declined to say if she would challenge Trump's actions in court, calling it a separate matter from the stimulus negotiations. Similarly, when asked about the legality of Trump's orders, Schumer said, I will leave that up to the attorneys. Mnuchin warned that Democrats, they would have a lot of explaining to do if they held up unemployment benefits through court challenges. He said each of Trump's orders were cleared by the Office of Legal Counsel, that he was confident they would be held up in court. When asked why Trump was at his golf club in New Jersey rather than taking the reins of the negotiations, Navarro said Trump was the hardest working president in history. The problem here is Capitol Hill, the swamp, two houses that are too far apart. I mean, the Lord and the founding fathers created executive orders because of the partisan bickering and divided government, he said. So this can still happen, folks. A stimulus package can still happen, okay? And here's a scenario one, right? It's possible that talks could still resume next week because you both heard from Democrats and Republicans and the White House. They all agree they want to continue negotiations, okay? So if so, the legislation could go to a vote in one chamber as soon as Tuesday or Wednesday. Both chambers must vote before the legislation lands on Trump's desk for his signature. If it follows the timeline for the CARES Act, which was passed in March, a new bill could become law within 3 days after the Senate has voted. And basically, here's a basic timeline right there. If the House votes on August 11th, and then the Senate votes August 12th, the president can sign the bill into law on August 13th, and so on and so on. The 12th, the 13th, the 14th, basically it can happen within a 3-day span from the House voting on the first day down to the president signing the bill into law. Okay, so that's the good news that I have for you folks. And, that's all I got for today. And make sure that you join our Facebook group so that way you can get more stimulus check updates by joining the link down inside of the description. Just hit the down arrow here. While you're in the description, you see other links for free money and other helpful resources too. give this video a thumbs up. So again, YouTube can promote us and give us more love here on YouTube, and more people can see our video. And make sure that you subscribe to the channel using the big red button below. Leave me a comment and let me know what you think about all of this, what you think about the good news, what you think about Trump's executive orders. What do you think about what I said about his executive orders? And any questions you have, leave them in the comments, or we'll see you in the group. So from all of us here at the How to Get an 800 Credit Score LLC family, stay safe, be blessed. We'll see you tomorrow. Bye for now. My name is Lyndon Baptiste, and on this channel we talk about ways to increase your credit score, build credit, and get approved for the lowest payments on mortgages and lines of credit, travel the world for free, earn extra money with cash back. And if that interests you, go ahead and hit the subscribe button, hit the bell for notifications. That way you'll never miss a single video as we make them.